Week 15 of the 2024 NFL season saw key developments in the AFC and NFC playoff races, as teams fought for positioning in berths. Two teams officially clinched their playoff spots in the AFC, with the Houston Texans securing the AFC South and the Pittsburgh Steelers earning a postseason berth. Meanwhile, the NFC had a quieter week, with no teams clinching outright. However, there were significant shifts in the battle for the number 1 seed, and the wild-card race tightened up. In the AFC, the Texans' 20-12 win over the Miami Dolphins wrapped up Houston's AFC South and sealed their playoff berth. The Dolphins' loss was compounded by the Indianapolis Colts' 31-13 defeat to the Denver Broncos, which allowed the Steelers to secure their spot in the postseason. The Steelers' clinching marked a significant achievement for a team navigating a tough season. No teams clinched a playoff spot on the NFC side in the NFC, but notable moves were made in the battle for the number 1 seed. The Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings both gained ground on the Detroit Lions, who have been holding the top spot. The Commanders also took a step forward in the wild-card race, making the playoff picture more intriguing as the final weeks of the regular season approach. One of the biggest stories in Week 15 was the Buffalo Bills, who solidified their position as Super Bowl contenders with a thrilling 48-42 victory over the Detroit Lions. After defeating their AFC rival, the Kansas City Chiefs, earlier this season, the Bills have now beaten the team many consider NFC's best. Josh Allen had another standout performance, throwing for 362 yards and 2 touchdowns while adding 68 rushing yards and 2 more touchdowns. James Cook contributed significantly, rushing for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns on 14 carries, including a remarkable play where he broke a tackle by his hair and scored. While the Bills remain a game behind the Chiefs in the AFC standings, they have established themselves as one of the league's most potent offenses. If they can catch the Chiefs in the standings and make the road to the Super Bowl run through Buffalo, their home field advantage in the cold weather could be a significant factor in their favor, especially considering they haven't reached the big game since 1994. In the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings have quietly been putting together a strong season, but the dominant play of the Detroit Lions has overshadowed them. However, the door has now opened for the Vikings to catch the Lions in the standings. As of Week 15, the Vikings are just half a game behind the Lions, entering their crucial Monday Night Football matchup with the Chicago Bears. A win would put Minnesota in prime position to make a run for the NFC North title, which would be a huge accomplishment considering the Lions' early dominance. While the Lions still hold an upper hand, especially with their 4-0 divisional record, the Vikings are in striking distance and could capitalize on any mistakes made by Detroit in the coming weeks. Lamar Jackson's MVP candidacy also gained momentum in Week 15, as he led the Baltimore Ravens to a dominant 35-14 victory over the New York Giants. Despite fumbling on his first carry, Jackson completed 21-25 passes for 290 yards, adding 65 yards on 6 carries. Jackson also posted a near-perfect passer rating of 154.6, proving he is a serious contender for the MVP award. The Giants, who have struggled with a 2-12 record, could do little to stop Jackson's offensive onslaught. The Ravens' win was significant because it put them within striking distance of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North race. With the Steelers losing to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Ravens are just one game behind heading into their pivotal Week 16 clash. If Jackson plays at this high level, Baltimore will remain a dangerous team in the postseason hunt. In the New York Jets' 32-25 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, quarterback Aaron Rodgers found a rhythm in the second half, connecting with star wide receiver Davante Adams for a vintage performance. After struggling in the first half with no receptions for Adams, Rodgers turned to his top target in the second half, connecting for 9 catches, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns was a spectacular 71-yard play, followed by a 2-point conversion that gave the Jets a 3-point lead late in the fourth quarter. Despite a disappointing season overall for the Jets, Rodgers and Adams showed that they still can perform at a high level, a silver lining for a team that faces uncertainty in 2025. However, only some of the news was positive. In Detroit, the Lions' chances at home field advantage in the postseason are now in jeopardy after losing to the Bills. Although Jared Goff has been exceptional in dome stadiums, his performance tends to dip in cold weather, outdoor environments. This could be problematic if the Lions need to travel to Philadelphia or another cold-weather city for the playoffs. With the Eagles and Lions now tied for the top spot in the NFC, the next few weeks will be critical in determining who gets the coveted number 1 seed. The Chiefs' offensive line struggles continued in Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes suffered another late-season injury. Mahomes was hit hard in the final minutes of the Chiefs' game against the Cleveland Browns, and while he didn't sustain a broken ankle, he was forced to leave the game and is now listed as week-to-week. The Chiefs' offensive line has been inconsistent all season, and the lack of protection for Mahomes could be a significant issue as Kansas City looks to defend its Super Bowl title. Although the injury isn't considered serious, Mahomes' health will be a major storyline heading into the season's final weeks. The Miami Dolphins' playoff hopes also took a massive hit after a 20-12 loss to the Houston Texans. Tua Tagovailoa had one of his worst performances of the season, committing 4 turnovers that directly contributed to the Texans' victory. Miami's inability to perform against winning teams has been a major issue, as they are now just 1-5 against teams with a winning record. With only a slim chance at making the playoffs, the Dolphins must address their inconsistency and lack of success against contenders if they want to be in the postseason conversation. Jonathan Taylor's costly mistake in Indianapolis further damaged the Colts' playoff hopes. Taylor fumbled the ball before crossing the goal line on what would have been a touchdown, allowing the Denver Broncos to recover and stay in the game. The Broncos scored 24 unanswered points, sealing a 31-13 win and effectively ending the Colts' chances at a playoff berth. The loss also ensured that the Houston Texans clinched the AFC South, leaving the Colts 2 games behind the Los Angeles Chargers in the wild-card race with just 3 remaining. The NFL playoff picture is beginning to take shape as the season moves into its final stretch, but there's still plenty of room for movement. Teams like the Bills, Ravens, and Vikings are making strong pushes, while injuries and mistakes continue to impact other teams' playoff dreams. The final 3 weeks promise to be full of drama as teams battle for positioning and berths.